Wi-Fi. We got jokes about freezing. We got jokes about McDonald's, 5G, Wi-Fi. Sometimes, folks, it just happens like that. I can assure you that the amount of, let's just say we should be very, very, in the Centel household, the Wi-Fi should be pretty robust. I have a gigabit connection and it is hardwired in through a LAN cord. So I should be good. But sometimes the world, the internet, the interwebs does not comply. Anyway, as we were getting to, I want to welcome everybody back into Before the Hedges. I'm your host, Jeff Centel. This becomes a podcast where you can follow on Spotify, SoundCloud, or the Apple Podcast platform. The thing you guys are just joining us back in, we just went through, I think, the 5 storylines of recruits to pay attention to heading into early signing day. Early signing day, folks, is next Wednesday. I briefly will run through them again. It's Kamari Wilson. Kamari Wilson will make his decision known at 4 p.m. on ESPN on December the 15th. Second name to pay attention to is Christian Miller. Christian Miller's playing in the state championship game this weekend. He is not going to sign anywhere during the early period. He will release his announcement. He will make his commitment with figuring it out the day of, he told me, on January the 8th from the All-American Bowl in San Antonio. Then he will sign during the traditional signing period in February. He also will not be able to take an official visit this weekend. Georgia is hosting him in home. Ohio State came in yesterday. Alabama, his third finalist, not scheduling to go in home with Christian Miller at last notice I had before our broadcast earlier today. Let me see. The third one, as I discussed, was Shamar James. Shamar James expected to be in Georgia this weekend on an official visit down to Georgia and Alabama right there. He was in home with both Alabama and Georgia this past weekend. This past weekend, he called the visit with Georgia's coaching staff a chance to get back with his Georgia family. Always good when a recruit uses the word family in any sort of description of a potential signing day situation. Number 4, I covered the receivers. There's Jayden Gibson to think about, the recent Florida decommit. Chandler Smith, another recent Florida decommit. You've got Squirrel White, who I think is probably the greatest possibility for Georgia to add somebody very substantial in the playmaker department. Current Tennessee commitment. Kirby is going in home with him tonight. I'd imagine Todd Monken or today, I would imagine Todd Monken and Cortez Hankton would also be a part of that visit. Kirby was in home also today with Oscar Delp. He was kind of making his rounds, kind of like Santa and his sleigh so far this week. I mean, again, a big official visit's coming up this weekend. That's the 4th topic. A lot of steadfast Georgia commitments are using this weekend to take their official visits as well. I think that covers all of our topics. I hope you guys are enjoying your Before the Hedges program so far. I think right about now, we got some of the meat off the bone in our show. I was taking a bunch of questions. I'll tell you what, I will do this. Let's everybody gather up your questions. We're going to take a minute to run that Kroger spot you guys are kind of getting acquainted to right now. That's me. That's Chef John. That's a barbecue grill. Back to fun times during the early summer at the beginning of the season. Let's take a look at the latest message from Kroger right now on Before the Hedges.
All right, Dog Nation, I've got Chef John here with Kroger. What we're trying to do is we're trying to take that tailgate to national championship standards. Chef John, we got some 3-star wing recipes. How do we take it to the next level?
Jeff, you've heard of buffalo wings, you've heard of barbecue wings. We're gonna take these to the next level. What we're gonna do is an orange garlic glazed wing.
All right, John, now normally my friends do not allow the color orange at the tailgate. Trusting you, man.
You're gonna love these. We're gonna get grilling right now. This is a garlic orange glazed wing. Made in marinade last night. It's with orange juice, brown sugar, garlic, salt and pepper, a little bit of butter and some hot sauce. Absolutely fantastic. So I didn't bring my own container in the marinade. I brought it in a Ziploc bag. Why? So I don't have to worry about washing, but also it's quick and easy to dispose of it and nice and clean and sanitary. Wings hot off the grill.
All right, guys, been hearing some good intel about this one. You know what, dog fans? This is the type of orange you want at your tailgate. Dog Nation, you just got a 5-star upgrade to your tailgate menu. Check out DogNation.com all season long for tailgate tips and recipes, brought to you by Kroger.
There you go, guys. And just like that, we transition out of our break, transition out of our Kroger spot, and we back, as Jazz Jackson would say on YouTube. Let me see if I can catch a lot of rapid fire questions right now. Noah Sheldon notes that he misses the BA Kroger voice. Kroger spot is cool. Not as heartwarming as the BA commercial with the song that makes us all cry. That's pretty good, Green Apple. Jazz Jackson's question. Who do I think is the most likely to flip to UGA from another program? Seeing as how the guys Georgia is tracking right now, the guys that are committed, I'm going to say it is Squirrel White, most likely to flip to Georgia from another program. Let me see. Paul Moon has a question. He feels there's one very obvious silent commitment. How many others do they think there are? I think I answered this on forum.dognation.com. That's our message board, our free message board, by the way. Sign up now. I think there's about 4 to 5 silent commitments that I would consider silent commitments across the 2022 and 2023 classes. Now, folks, let me let you in on a little secret. The term silent commitment isn't what it used to be, because there's a lot of guys that say, or that tell the coaches, hey, reserve me a spot, I'm coming in the class, or I'm coming. That's not the kind of thing where a commitment says, it doesn't all, it more likely happens kind of that way, rather than a commitment saying, I'd like to silently commit to your program. I'd like to lock up my spot. I'm going to visit other schools, but I want to let you know that I'm silently committed and will reveal it at a later time. I think my definition of what I would consider a silent commitment, I think the number across the 2022 and 23 classes feels like about 4 or 5 guys there to me. Foster Moss has a question. Am I going to catch any of the GHSA championship games this weekend? Yes, sir, Foster. Probably plan to be there almost all the entire day on Saturday. I know Christian Miller, Kyan Lee, CJ Madden, those guys are going for Cedar Grove versus Carver Atlanta, which should be a very competitive game, maybe the most competitive game of the Georgia High School Association weekend. I hear it's going to rain. I'm going to have to bring my sloggy rain gear as well. But then right after that, you have Warner Robins and Calhoun. Calhoun is obviously the home of Cole Spear, who also got a visit from Todd Monken and Kirby Smart and Cortez Hankton today as well. He's going for Calhoun. Had a very sensational season, I would say. Then also the nightcap, you've got the 7A game. That's LT Overton and Milton against LT Overton and Milton against you've got a horde of guys. Collins Hill has Travis Hunter. Collins Hill has Ethan Davis, Sam Horn, the Missouri commitment as well. Should be a very entertaining game. Also, Milton High School has a very impressive young cornerback, 2023 quarterback named Bryce Thornton. That's the son of the former Georgia defensive back as well. Really like his game. Really like the way he plays football, and has a championship level mindset for getting after his business and getting better every day. Those are most of the GSSA games I'll catch. Kirby's visor hit Buc-ee's and Calhoun. Kirby, are you so slick you can get in and out of Buc-ee's in about 5 minutes? Because I would like to hear an individual that can do that. Ryan M brings up a good point. Ryan M wants to know, is it time for Kirby to bring on Hines Ward as receivers coach so we can start getting some more elite recruits? I don't know if that would be the thing. Who's the position coach? I know we'll get Georgia in the door with a lot of guys and a lot of families, but I think Hines Ward might be about a year or two away from really having his best resume to take on the Georgia job at wide receivers. He's now finally the on-fields receivers coach at Florida International University, I think, FIU. I think that's where he's at. Lots to talk about quarterbacks. I want to just bring this up. Everybody's watching the Quinn Ewers situation, who's decommitted or transfer portaling out from Ohio State. That was the guy that reclassified from 2022 to 2021 to take advantage of an autograph NIL deal and also a health drink NIL deal. Now he's reportedly expected to go back to Texas, and if it is the University of Texas, that would certainly mean good things for Georgia in terms of the recruitment and the chase for one Arch Manning. as well. If Texas picks up the best quarterback in the 2021 cycle as well, who will have eligibility going forward as well. Let me see. Let me bounce over to YouTube, see if I can catch some questions right there. I had to pull it up on my notifications. Let me see. Question from, let me see if I got that. Jeremy Barbary. Theo Weiss is a guy I would think of. Never really thought Jaden Hazelwood would be a guy that would come back to Georgia, especially with his high school coach as the running backs coach at Arkansas. I think that's a very good fit there for him as well. Let me see. Let's just go to the boards. This is what the top targets list looks like for this week. There's been some more movement on the top targets list this week. Some names drop off, some names come on, some names move up, some names move down. Let's take a look at it right now. I think I capped it at nine guys so far. And there we go. Shemar Stewart. Now, back and forth on this. My reporting on this leads me to believe that Shemar Stewart, folks, still plans to take his thing all the way to National Signing Day in February. He is not going to be in Athens on his official visit this weekend. He is going to be in College Station at Texas A&M on his unofficial visit. Folks, it's just going to be rock, paper, scissors war for Shamar Stewart for the entire month of January. I think Georgia's going to be giving hard chase to Texas A&M, and we'll see how things happen there. Marvin Jones Jr., that's probably the one name that I think Georgia fans would be psyched, stoked, encouraged to see kind of show up in Athens this weekend on an official visit. He was basically in a silent commitment to Oklahoma. That changed with Lincoln Riley's move to Southern Cal. Right now, Marvin Jones Jr. is actually on a midweek official visit to go check out Southern Cal with his family to see if they can kind of repair some inroads there. Florida State is a team to consider there as well. He's a Florida State legacy. Also, the team that probably in my mind looms largest there for Marvin Jones Jr. would be the University of Alabama. At 7, we've moved Jayden Gibson back out of the realms of committed to Florida Gators, back onto number 7 on the top targets list. I think Georgia really has the ability and the wiggle to add up to 2 game breaker type receivers. I like Jayden Gibson's game the most, especially how much he already considered Georgia prior to his commitment to Florida. Pretty unfortunate situation there. Jayden Gibson's parents were a double legacy there to Florida as well. DeMario Tolan, still currently an LSU commitment. Will be very interesting to see if Brian Kelly can hold on to him and his family in Baton Rouge. He gave Georgia an official visit for the Charleston Southern game as well, and really caught Georgia's last 2 home games. He's out of Orlando, Florida. Ernest Greene, hear a lot with him about Alabama. He was in Alabama prior to the SEC championship game. He was at the SEC championship game. Looked to me, he was sitting around a lot of Alabama fans and in an Alabama section. Or at least he was hanging out over the section where Alabama warmed up at as well. Marquarius Squirrel White, we mentioned him as well. Gave us our clear read on that. And we're able to speed through 4, 3, 2, and 1 because, hey, we've already talked about that in parts 1 and part 2 right there. And let's probably flip the page on our top targets and go to because we covered everything: Kamari Wilson, Christian Miller, Shamar James, and Squirrel White in our previous 2 segments and also before the break. The next thing I want to show you is other names to know for this class of 2022. And these are the guys that I would say probably are the ones that are going to need a little bit more juice. One thing to pay attention to, there's a Georgia commitment that's Sean Washington. Sean Washington is out of New Orleans, Louisiana. He is expected to take an official visit to Florida this weekend. His final 2 schools were Florida and Georgia. Devin Campbell, we mentioned him as well, another 5-star guy who could show up in Athens. Is that going to be just a visit? I think so. It's going to be very hard for Georgia to jump into that thing. But stranger things have happened in the recruiting world. We mentioned Acoldis Crawford as well. That's another guy that is a recent decommit wide receiver out of Louisiana who decommitted from LSU. Myron Greene, that's a name that Travion Scott went to go see in home. He's very close with Sean Washington. He went and saw Myron Greene, a junior college 3-star defensive tackle. I think he's the number 10 overall JUCO prospect right now in the 24/7 Sports Composite. Myron Greene out of Itawamba Community College in Fulton, Mississippi. He's a kind of a New Orleans native. That's a name that's on the board a little bit. Nigel Kelly and also Dayon Walker. Dayon Walker is the guy who gave Georgia that late official visit. He is planning to be in back in Ann Arbor this weekend for another visit prior to his decision on early signing day as well. Those are some of your other names to know. Let's look at the recruiting timelines. One of those that are known timelines. Let's take a look at that. You've got Camden Brown, new name. That's the 3-star who recently decommitted from Pitt. Going to take an official visit to Georgia this weekend. Cortez Hankton went in home with him in Fort Lauderdale, Florida yesterday. Very interesting to see Georgia's late candidacy there. He's going to make his decision on December the 15th. December the 15th is also the time for Shamar James. December 15th is also the timeline for Kamari Wilson. Hero Canoe, another name that Georgia was in at for a time, is going to make his decision known to the public on January the 8th. Same thing for Christian Miller. And then January the 11th is when the 5-star junior cornerback A.J. Harris, really a special cornerback out of Phoenix City, Alabama. Georgia has been recruiting him hard for a very long time. Del McGee even stopped by his school this week when he was in Columbus this week to check on Michael Williams. Those are the other declared timelines. I think the next thing we show you on our scroll through the food groups, I call them each and every week, is the Georgia commitment snapshot. There are 24 commitments right now, public commitments to Georgia, and the 2022 recruiting cycle. It still gives Georgia a narrow lead, and I'm talking like 305 to 303 lead on the 24/7 Sports team composite rankings for the class of 2022. Georgia has a narrow lead on Texas A&M. Texas A&M just picked up another 5-star defensive lineman that was a flip from Oklahoma after the coaching transitions there. Very interesting to see what Texas A&M is doing. I guess I got to take a minute to talk about Texas A&M. The whole state of Texas is getting very fishy. There's a Hearts for Horns or Horns at Heart program for the University of Texas where they figured out a way where you have Texas offensive linemen getting $50,000 a year annually in an NIL marketing deal. But what they are is they're really working for a charity. They're doing charity work for this kind of conglomerate, I guess I would say there. And so there's really no sort of impetus for them to actually do the charity work or really generate a lot of value or goods and services for a for-profit business. Very interesting what the state of Texas is doing there. Texas A&M, folks, is really going in hard in the paint on NIL deals with a lot of guys. It's not quite the same thing as offering guys starting positions, but it's offering them NIL deals that would be coming if they were to sign with their school. Crazy how that stuff's kind of going on right there, what Texas is doing on that front. Georgia has 10 commitments on offense. They have 13 on defense. They have in-state 12 commitments, out-of-state. They have 12 commitments. They have 3 5-star commitments right now, 6 top 50, 10 top 100 commitments, 12 top 150 commitments. 22 are in the SEC footprint. 2 are beyond the SEC footprint. Again, the thing to watch here is this is a defensive-heavy class, a very defensive-heavy based class. That's why 9 of the team's top 12 highest-rated commitments are on the defensive side of the ball. The only 3 guys that are not playing on the defensive side of the ball that are among the Bulldogs' top 12 commitments, that's Gunnar Stockton, Branson Robinson, and also Oscar Delp right there. Let me see. What we always do right now, we always kind of try to keep you educated and updated on all things with the 2023 recruiting class. Let's take a look right there. The top targets that I've already kind of established for Georgia going forward in the 2023 cycle. Let's take a quick lap through those right now. Makari Vickers, that's a guy that Georgia had started recruiting when they were recruiting Terrion Arnold. It's John Paul II. Trayon Webb, recent Oklahoma decommit. Santana Fleming is a big-time slot receiver out of American Heritage. Number 9, Tony Mitchell, and now a 3-time state champion cornerback out of Alabaster, Alabama. A guy that I see, these two guys right here at 7 and 8 are the ideal dream backfield for Georgia in 2023. That is Reuben Owens out of El Campo, Texas, and Justice Haynes out of Blessed Trinity in Roswell, Georgia. Lebanese Lt Overton. Got some good information on Lt Overton recently I'd like to share. Number 1 is he is not going to be reclassifying to the 2022 class. Can put that rumor to bed. Got some good concrete intel on that. Overton is a guy that is really a guy that is going to pay a lot of attention to how he can get developed. What's going to impress him is the film room more than anything else. And Lt Overton and Milton are facing Collins Hill this weekend in the 7A Georgia State Championship game. There's Arch Manning at number 5. We mentioned him earlier. Quinn Ewers to Texas would probably be another great asset for Georgia in the chase there for Arch Manning. And I'm going to say this. Everybody's seen, walk with me here a little bit. Everybody's seen the Marvel Infinity War series, the Endgame movie, also the Infinity War movie. You know, it's one of those things, you know, when Thanos makes the snap in the Infinity War installment of that franchise and everybody starts withering away. That's kind of what's happening with Georgia and a lot of its recruiting races recently. You see what's happening now with Clemson with losing their defensive coordinator, are likely to lose their offensive coordinator. Potentially he's in heavy talks right now with Virginia. You see Texas's chances of maybe getting Arch Manning are kind of being snapped away and kind of disappearing and unraveling and kind of turning to dust and like that cinematography of that movie. Seems like Georgia's benefiting from a lot of things. Look what's happening at Florida, for instance. They're kind of withering and kind of not just withering, but basically dissecting their 2022 recruiting class. Georgia sees the dissolution of the Florida program, especially the tenure of Dan Mullen, leading to the Georgia to be able to pick up the recruitment of Julian Humphrey, but also really get in strong with Shamar James as well. Would it be Jayden Gibson as well? Would it be Chandler Smith? Very interesting to see what Georgia is doing there with a lot of programs that have kind of fallen by the wayside. Let me see. Number 3 on that list, going back to the top targets, number 3 on that list was Caden McDonald, a defensive tackle. I seriously am impressed with that of North Gwinnett High School. He's already a Bulldog right there. Georgia still holds the lead for him right there over Ohio State and some other schools. Number 2, you had A.J. Harris there as well in the mix. I believe A.J. Harris was number 4. And then number 1 and 2, you've got Malik Bryant and Jonel Aguero. Jonel was a teammate of Kamari Wilson at IMG Academy as well. That's a good way to look at your top targets right there for the class of 2023. Just a way that we can try to keep you guys really well informed on not just 2022, but the names to know in 2023. There was a young man by the name of Raymond Wilson who made a commitment today. His finalists were Michigan and Georgia. You guys will say, honey. You guys will say funny, or maybe honey, that's funny, or funny honey, that you never saw him on the top targets list. And that's because I didn't think he was a bona fide contender for Georgia in the class of 2023. I think the Georgia hat was just some street cred on the table for him to have a final 2 and make his decision. Raylan Wilson's a top 75 overall prospect. He runs the 100 meters in about 11 seconds. Really impressive young man on the hoof. And that was a great get for Michigan as well. But I didn't really see that as a recruiting battle between Georgia and Michigan or anything like that. Not kind of like what the Orange Bowl was going to be like in the recruiting battle realm right there. Let me see. Switching gears, time to check out some got a lot of chatter. This is going to feel like a slideshow. It's going to feel like a PowerPoint. I'm going to be showing you guys a lot of guys that's going on down in the class of 2022. This is in-home visit week for guys. It's been the first time since January 2019, 2020, since Georgia coaches have been in home. I think smoked chicken, chicken wings. I'm going to put a story together soon about everything that the Georgia coaches ate on a lot of their in-home visits. I think that would be kind of interesting right there. Let's look at the first one right there, Bear Alexander. Look at the tree right there behind Bear Alexander. That's a huge tree. That's a big Christmas tree for Big Bear Alexander. You see right there that Trey Scott and Kirby Smart went in home with Big Bear Alexander right there. The anchor 5-star defensive tackle in the class of 2022. Making sure you guys are seeing them and making sure you guys are up to date as we follow along. Let me see. Yep, right there. His home visit went great. Again, as we mentioned earlier in the program, that Big Bear Alexander is going to be in Athens this weekend on his long-awaited official visit. Next up on the list is Alu Ba. I'm going to write something about Alu Ba this weekend because I think you guys need to learn about Lou, the former Florida State commitment who flipped to Georgia. I believe in late October, that's when he did. That was in that penultimate week when Georgia got a commitment from Bear Alexander, Michael Williams, and also Alu Ba. He's out of IMG Academy. Kirby went, gave his school a visit while he was visiting all those Clemson commitments right now, and also checking on Kamari Wilson as well. You see another one right here. This is Dylan Bell. I'm just going to kind of go through him. Playmaking wide receiver out of Texas. That guy's got some wiggle. Another guy that's going to have probably, I think, A.D. Mitchell, Ladd McConkey type impact for the Georgia Bulldogs in their offense. Plays running back. He is plays private school football because some of those impressive highlights he has in Texas are done in the private school parochial kind of league, but still think he's very elusive. Still think he can be a factor for Georgia, maybe by the second year of his career. Camden Brown, here he is right here. Look how big he is next to Cortez Hankton right here. Camden Brown. Georgia went in home with him this week. I think Pitt went in home with him tonight. And then he's going to come back and give Georgia an official visit this weekend, which is, I think, if Georgia's going to get in the good graces and if Georgia's going to turn that commitment late, then that's probably what's necessary. It's going to have to happen. You see right here, this is a tweet I found it very interesting. Look at this tweet right here. This is about transfer portal. Folks that go in the transfer portal. This is a gentleman whose account I found on Twitter. He has some data about over 1,000 folks have been on the transfer portal dating back over the last, 16 to 18 months. Only 28% of those guys found a home once they went into the transfer portal. Kind of lost in the transfer portal right now, everybody that went in. And that stat's very alarming to me because I think the number is even worse because a lot of those guys that go in the transfer portal, some of that 24% or 28%, whatever that number is, lots of guys, folks, they go into the transfer portal really already having a really strong idea about who their next team or teams are going to be. And if you take out those guys that go into the portal really knowing where they're going afterward coming out of it, you take away those guys, those are some really dire situations for anybody that goes into the portal. Next in-home on our in-home list, I got to thank Michael Carvel for putting together all these pictures here. I do think it feels like a PowerPoint or a slideshow, but right here, Oscar Delp goes in home. Todd Hartley himself was in the Oscar Delp home last week. This week, it's Kirby. It's the whole family there, Kirby, Hartley as well. Interesting there. This is the decommitment announcement from Jayden Gibson. He just decommitted from Florida earlier today. You see right there, he's like, I got to find a new home quick. Again, this was a guy, folks, that when he went to the opening this year, it was a limited opening. It was basically just skill guys there at the opening. Really turned a lot of heads. He had ball skills. He had length. He had the ability to go up and get it. 6'4" receiver. Folks want to know, the good player parallel there. I think you got to go to the last name. I think Fred Gibson is a decent player parallel for the type of game and overall playmaking ability that Jayden Gibson has. Look at this picture right here with Marquise Groves Killebrew. He's the original OG commitment of the Boss Moves class. You see him there with Kirby Smart. You see the knee brace he's got going on right there. He just had surgery. He suffered an injury in the last game of his regular season of his high school career. Killebrew's right there, and I tweeted out today that it sort of feels like that Marquise Groves Killebrew has almost been committed as long as he was committed back when Sony and Nick Chubb were still on campus in Athens. Look at Julian Humphrey right here, third cousin of Bobby Humphrey, if you guys know that name. Excuse me, Marlon Humphrey, if you know that name, the Pro Bowl cornerback for the Ravens. Still going to have the number one class, still have the number one class. He also tweeted out something this week that Georgia, well, you're going to see this in a couple of seconds, but here's another one with Humphrey. We got 3 tweets from Humphrey right now. The second one is, see him right there, Georgia's Will Muschamp, very integral part of this recruitment for Julian Humphrey. They came to see him earlier this week at Clear Lake High School in Texas. Peaches wants to say hi to everybody. She's jumping at me. She's looking at me. She's like, can I get some camera time here, please? It's only the week before early signing period. The third one there from the third one here to look at here from Julian Humphrey is where he's talking about got a receiver. Been working on a receiver. That's what he felt like Georgia in the class needed. So he felt like he reeled one in for the class there. Look right here, Jordan James. Folks, Jordan James had a phenomenal senior season, ran for over 200 yards in the 6A state championship game in Tennessee for his high school program that went back-to-back and won back-to-back state championships there. Here he is with the man, Dell McGee, right there. Shamar James, we talked about that tweet earlier, how he had a home visit, and where it looks like to me they went to like Buffalo Wild Wings or something like that, or some kind of good sports bar and grill. But you see all the Georgia coaches that are mounting there. They're really showing how much of a priority Shamar James is in that class. Look at John Johnson right here. That's the father of Mikel Williams at Hardaway High School in Columbus, Georgia. Another 3-man front. You want to call it a 3-dog night. You want to call it the three-pronged attack. You see right here, Georgia brought a host of guys to go check it out. That's Dell McGee, Dan Lanning. Likewise, considering that Kirby Smart, likewise considering that Mikel Williams was such a very big part of this class. Marvin Jones, you look right here. This Georgia went in home with him prior to the SEC championship game. Again, Alabama looms like a very strong team to beat there. He's a Florida State legacy. His cousin and father, I think his uncle and father, played at Florida State. He's currently on an official visit to USC. At one point, he was committed to Oklahoma silently. And then you've got Georgia here. Georgia's got a little bit of an in where his older brother was actually recruited and played for Jamil Adai at West Virginia. Crazy how that works. Marvin Jones Jr. feels like a soap opera with all those schools involved. And then you've got Jamil Adai also being a guy that Georgia went after. You see Dan Lanning there as well. Georgia definitely needs to keep pumping with those edge rushers in the 2022 class right there. And Marvin Jones Jr., again, very vital, I think, in this reporter's opinion, for Georgia to get him and bring him back on campus for his official visit this weekend. Because a lot of times the feeling around Marvin Jones Jr. is he really wouldn't know what his final decision would be until he took that official visit to Georgia. You see here right there, Christian Miller, he was in home with Ryan Day and Larry Johnson right there as well. Cole Spear, he got another in-home visit or school visit, it looks like there with you see Todd Monken, you see Cortez Hankton, you see Kirby Smart there as well. Really another really strong Northwest Georgia player, big-time playmaker as well. Gunnar Stockton, we got to have let's all do this. Let's have a little bit Before the Hedges clap for the Gatorade Georgia Player of the Year. That's Gunnar Stockton. He was awarded that honor this week, and this tweet from the Georgia High School Association reflects that. Let's look at Jalen Walker right here. Jalen Walker was probably, I think he was the first player to get an in-home visit, and he got it on Sunday afternoon. Jalen's mother, Lashika Walker, she cooked the menu was smoked chicken. I've been inside the Walker home when the family had some gator tail and everything else like that. Those folks are good people, and they are gracious hosts. You see right there, though, he's got something cooking in the pot. That's him doing that backdoor recruiting, that last-minute recruiting for the class of 2022, because Jalen Walker wants to play with some dudes. You see here, there's the in-home visit there with Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart and the Walker family. You see his mother in there. You see his younger brother, Deuce Walker, who's also, I think, is going to be a skill guy, defensive back, wide receiver prospect. You also see his father, Curtis Walker, which is the head coach at Division II Catawba College in Salisbury, North Carolina. Another visit here, you've got C.J. Washington. You see Schumann there as well. He came to visit C.J. Washington out of Cedartown. Kirby Smart is a guy also as well. And then the last one, this was we should probably end it with the biggest target on the board. That would be Kamari Wilson. Kamari Wilson, this was his message right there. Still go Dogs. A couple of emojis right there. This is what Kamari had to say after the SEC championship game. There you have it. I believe those were 22 tweets. Thanks, Michael, for getting all those up and Adam and on the board for everybody to get a chance to go see. I am Jeff Sintel. Let me check, see if I can bring up my feed live on Before the Hedges. See if I can get any last minute questions for anybody to discuss the latest. Let me see. What's up, everybody? Everybody having a good night? Hope so. Hope so. Sacred Grove, pretty good comment there, saying Kamari was watching like they can throw that on me like that. Green Apple with a Cedartown comment. Let me see. Got a lot of Green Apple. He basically wants to give Todd Hartley a raise. Let me see. Lots of questions about the quarterback position. Let me see. Let me see. Checking out YouTube. I just took a tour around YouTube. Then we go to Facebook. Let me see. Facebook's a little behind. Let me see if I can catch Facebook up. One thing I just wanted to, as we wrap up kind of this nightly edition, the Wednesday night edition of Before the Hedges Wednesday Night Live. This is the time of year when I think that game gets magnified. The SEC championship game gets magnified, and I'm going to just, everybody. I think everybody's going to put a lot of stock, perhaps too much stock in that last game. I think Alabama and Georgia will meet again, and I think that's what the thought that's on everybody's minds. Everybody's going to say those things like, "Hey, Michigan's a really good team. Nobody needs to look past Michigan, or this Bulldog football team will never get to Alabama." I think some saltiness and some ticked off would be good for this Georgia team. I think it's going to force this team to take some hard looks in the mirror and figure out which players need to be on the field to give themselves the best chance to win, to give this program the best chance to win. But remember how, a good friend of mine had a pretty good tweet, and he basically pretty good text, because everybody's got the text threads going. Everybody's wanting to know what's going on. And I don't know if there was ever a way for like a Verizon or a T-Mobile or Sprint or anybody's provider to track the text messages in the state of Georgia from state of Georgia area codes over the last 4 days. I would say probably a good 30% of them, 25% of them might be related to Georgia football and that SEC championship game. I know your phone's probably gotten the same type of traffic than mine, but remember before that game, Alabama was terrible. They couldn't block. They basically had 2 SEC or 3 SEC caliber offensive linemen. And all of a sudden things changed quite so rapidly, where the team that couldn't move the ball against Auburn, minus Jamison Williams on the sidelines, couldn't score points, suddenly became a world beater. I'm gonna tell you, I was down on the sidelines watching the entire game with my camera at I had a 400 millimeter lens, and as I was going through all the photos I took of that game, it was uncanny how many times that Georgia was like this far away from Bryce Young, or the ball was getting let go. And sometimes there was a couple of plays where Quay Walker is literally crawling on the ground to get to Bryce Young, and that's because he had a free lane and he beat his man, and then he just tripped over an Alabama offensive lineman's ankle as he was kind of clearing through some trash. And that gave Bryce Young the extra couple of seconds he needed. I feel like there's that Al Pacino speech from any given Sunday in there where, like, the inches we need are all around us. Will you fight for that inch here, that inch there can really change the football game. I think Georgia is a much better team than they showed on Saturday in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I think you take the pick six and you take the 2 times that Georgia got down in the red zone and came away with 0 points. Something to think about there. Obviously, Vegas thought it was very curious how Vegas put out some lines for what would happen with all potential national championship games, and Georgia was still a 1.5 point favorite over Alabama on a neutral field. So those folks that have all those pretty lights and those big electric bills in Vegas must know something. One other thing, as I kind of scroll through it, it's going to be a long 3 weeks before everybody. It's going to be a long 3 weeks before everybody gets to play this game as well. Tell you what, anybody got any more thoughts? If you guys got a quick question, first 3 questions I see on that I can answer on either platform, I'll do my best to answer them right now. I mean, Paul Moon, I understand it, what it is. It's the dominant narrative of the Georgia football program. It's JT and Stetson and JT. And I don't know, man. I would imagine most people would be willing to take another L against Alabama just to figure out whether or not JT was good enough. Jermaine King, I'm scrolling back up to your thoughts. Jermaine King asked, with NIL deals now, you need to give awards or a co-hosting job to the incoming recruit that recruits the most players, like Gunner and Humphrey. That's a good suggestion there, Jermaine. I tell you what, if I had to give a job to anybody, co-hosting job, it'd probably be Christian Miller. Another great guy would be, I think Bear Alexander would be great, and I think Jalen Walker would be great. There is a ton of guys in this class that are going to kill it when it comes time to create their brand. Jamie Scott, I still think there's no chance of a Travis Hunter flip. Jerry Dogs fan is excited to see a healthier George Pickens. Sure, most people would think if that 12 or 15 plays that GP1 got against Alabama turns into maybe 25 against Michigan, and then maybe 37 in the national championship game, that would be a great thought. Ryan M, question about what happened to Carson Beck. Yeah, very high on him at one time. Ryan, I'm not trying to make you throw something in your house right now, but it is a fact, pretty much a known fact for folks that cover the recruiting trail as hard as I do and others like myself, that, Carson Beck was at one time committed to Alabama, and that was Nick Saban's guy. And then what happened is Dan Enos and Mike Loxley and most of the offensive staff, this was another one of those churns for Alabama where they churn out their assistant coaches and replace everybody left and right. Carson didn't really know anybody left in that program that would be coaching him, so he decommitted, and then he wound up committing to Georgia, and then Alabama kept coming back. Nick Saban kept coming back for him, and eventually Nick Saban had to go and find Bryce Young. It's crazy how that recruiting world works. That Carson Beck never decommits from Alabama, then Bryce Young is not the quarterback on Saturday for Alabama. So many things about that, the webs and the ripples of recruiting, how they can affect Heisman Trophy winners, how they can affect national champions, how they can affect SEC champions, and the like. I think, with Carson, I think the whole thing about, there's been a couple of times when, he was named publicly as the number 2 quarterback earlier this year, and people look at that and they go, well, what was exactly Kirby Smart saying? Was he number 2 behind Stetson because JT was not available, or was it was he legitimately the number 2 behind JT? And then there was also the thing where the Arkansas game his freshman year, where there was a lot of chatter and indication that he might get some serious playing time in that game after Dwan Mathis, and then Stetson Bennett comes in and saves the day, so to speak. I'm very high on Carson Beck. I think wherever he is playing football in the year 2022, 2023, I think he's going to be a dang good quarterback for somebody. Green Apple, I got a question. I got a take about that. Sooner or later, you just got to play your best DBs, whether they're young or not. You see what Alabama did. They had JaQuincy McKinstry, who was a 5-star, and he got kind of flambéed and roasted. He was the guy getting all those pass interferences, but Alabama thought he was talented enough, and they were going to ride with him and get him better in the long run. And, that's something that will pay off down the road, especially when Alabama keeps stacking up these victories because of the other portions of their team are strong enough to weather a growing pains, talented young cornerback. That makes me think about guys like Myron Greene. It makes me think about more of Javon Bullard. It makes me think more about Kamari Lassiter. I mean, Kamari Lassiter has played in 13 games this year. Javon Bullard's played in 12. Myron Greene's only played in 3. But if you want to talk about the type of athlete that can play and run with those stallions at Alabama, those are the type of guys that can do that. I know they're young, but they have the ability to athletic-wise to kind of figure it out. You saw a lot of Dan Jackson. You've seen a lot of Dan Jackson. You've seen a lot of William Poole in that game. How much was Chris Smith back? What was the status of Latavius Brini? Another name that I wouldn't mind seeing a lot more of, I would have liked to have seen a lot more of, is David Daniel. I think that's another safety man that he's every bit the athlete that Dan Jackson is. And I know Dan Jackson runs a 5.45 and is very heady, very smart, very intelligent football player. But David Daniel's a pretty special athlete too. And maybe you could move some guys around there and give David some reps in certain packages. And then you've got the ability to float Chris Smith across the defense as well. One of the things everybody doesn't believe it because everybody thinks the most talented guy could play. But I do also want to say one other point. It may sound like a counter opinion, but these coaches want to win more than anybody. They want this to happen for Georgia more than anybody. And they've given a lot of these players ample opportunity to kind of spread their wings and fly. And if they don't give them confidence to do it during the week, then they're certainly not going to throw them out there on Saturday in a huge high-stakes game like the SEC championship. Guys, it's been another Before the Hedges. We draw ever so closer to the early signing period. I think this weekend will be a big weekend. You're going to get some closure on some things. You're going to see where Georgia is at with all those wide receivers as everybody counts down until early signing day on December 15th. When that day comes, I think there will only be a couple of names left. Shemar Stewart, Christian Miller, that Georgia will be jockeying for in the class of 2022 in that Boss Moves class. I'm Jeff Sintel. I've been your tour guide for this episode of Before the Hedges. I want to say thanks to everybody for joining us. Hope you felt informed. I hope you felt a little bit entertained. Hope you were able to get some jokes in and go back and forth with some knowledgeable Georgia fans here on this platform as well. I thank you for your time, and we'll see everybody later on the pages of DogNation.com. Happy holidays, everybody, and God bless you.